Hello friends, it's Melody here today with Design by Melody, and I have a tip video for you today. These are 5 helpful tips to help you get your crafty mojo back. And I want to thank Victoria's Moon for sponsoring today's video. Now, if you've been with me for any period of time, you know that I have actually taken a really long, extended, unexpected break here recently. So these are 5 things that I use to help myself get back my crafty mojo. Let's start with tip number 1. Organize your craft space. Now, this could look very different depending on the space that you use for your crafting. For me, I happen to have a craft studio, but I also run a couple businesses out of the same room that I also use as my craft studio. So I have to kind of keep the space somewhat organized, otherwise it's really not functional. And I am definitely one of those people that has to have clean mental space, just the same as I have to have like a clean visual space. I have to be able to see my desk. I don't work well with things piled high on my desk. I just can't get into the crafty zone if I see a pile of things that need to be put away. So that is what I'm doing today, organizing my space. Now, it's fairly organized because I did switch my craft studio into a different room of our home. I will share a new craft tour with you at some point in the future. I have a lot going on right now, so there are many projects out everywhere, but I did have a pile of supplies that were given to me. This was a D-stash that was gifted to me, and so I was going through it here, trying to see what is in this stash, and also kind of sorting through it and putting it away. Now, you're not going to see me put it away, but you're going to see me sort through the supplies here. We're actually also going to use some of these supplies later on in the video for another tip. Now, for you, this could just be simply cleaning off your craft desk. It could be putting away a kit that you just finished working with, or that you had finished working with months ago and never put away. I do have one of those as well. Or it could even be just cleaning up your craft space. So maybe you already have an organizational system that works for you, and you just kind of need to sort through and reorganize to make sure that everything's put back in the proper place it could be. Or it could be a complete overhaul and a complete reorganization of your entire craft space. It just depends on where you are and where you individually need to be in order to be functional. So for me, I needed to have this pile of things put away. So I sorted through, I made a pile of paper, I made a pile of embellishments, I broke apart these kits and looked to see what was in them. There's actually 2 card kits in this entire collection of D-stash, and we're going to use those later. But I was looking through here trying to figure out, okay, am I going to actually make these cards? Do I want to keep this kit together? Do I want to break it apart? What exactly do I want to do? So I was just going through the supplies, determining where it needed to go in my craft space. Now, as I said, I did recently move my craft space into a different part of my home, so I will share that with you at some point in the future. And then this is another kit here. Now, this one I am going to break apart. We are actually not leaving this together because this is a scrapbook kit. And as you know, I like to make my own kits. And even though I do sometimes like to use pre-made kits, I'm not at the point where I'm ready to use this kit, so we're going to break it apart. Tip number 2, work on some crafty project other than scrapbooking. So I was actually contacted by Victoria Moon a couple months ago, honestly, and they asked if they could send me a diamond painting kit. Now, I don't know if I've shared this on my channel before, but I do enjoy diamond painting. It's something that I actually saw a couple other scrapbookers talk about probably over a year ago, and I purchased a couple diamond paintings. So when Victoria's Moon contacted me, I was, yes, sure, go ahead, send it to me. I would love to do one. So this is actually the largest diamond painting I have ever done. As you can see here, it's quite large. It's very rolled up here and because I'm just taking it out of the packaging. But I'm going to share with you what this diamond painting looks like and what they sent me in the package. Now, just to tell you a little bit about Victoria's Moon, it is a company out of the UK, and they have over 8,000 designs on their site for you to pick from. And you can also even upload your own image and create your own custom diamond painting if you like. And since we are approaching Christmas, that would be a really cool gift to get someone. This is the picture that I actually picked out. It is a girl with like kind of long curly hair holding a rose, and it's all in neutral tones except for the rose itself is kind of a dusty rose. Now, the diamond painting that I picked is, I think it's 40 centimeters by 50 centimeters or something like that. I don't know the exact measurements, but based off that writing at the top of the diamond painting, that's what I'm going to say this one is. And I couldn't find the direct link to the one that I picked, of course, on their site, but I am going to link their site down in the description box below, and they are offering 10% off for any of my viewers that go purchase a diamond painting kit. So make sure you go check those out, especially for Christmas presents, either for yourself or someone else. Why not get 10% off? Now, they do ship worldwide, and it's free shipping worldwide, which is a huge plus. And there are a lot of companies out there that do diamond paintings, but this one seems to be pretty good quality. Let me show you everything that they sent me. And this is how I set up my diamond painting kits, by the way. I take a mat. I have a lot of self-healing mats because I'm also a sewer. And so I have a whole stash of different sizes of those in my craft room. And anytime that I start a new diamond painting, I pull out one of those self-healing mats. I smooth out my diamond painting and I tape it to that mat. Now, the mat is really a cutting mat for sewing, but it works perfectly as a hard surface for this diamond painting. So I can take the diamond painting around my home and work on it at different points in time. This one just happens to be a huge one, so it's going to take me absolutely forever to finish it, but it's going to be fun, especially now that we're approaching the winter months and it's kind of getting cold here in North Carolina, and I'm spending a lot of time in my living room sitting by the fire, so this is going to be a fun project to work on. Now, in the kit, of course, you get all your little diamonds. These are just little plastic squares, basically. You can get round ones or square ones. I happen to prefer the look of the square ones because it fills in all the little holes, whereas the circular ones leave little tiny gaps between each color, which is just a different look. I just happen to prefer the square one, so that's what I chose. They also sent me this really cute, like Pen Gems style applicator pen. Now, I had never seen this before, but they sent it to me and it's absolutely adorable. And then the little wax end that I'm twisting off here is replaceable. So as you use the wax or the wax were to get dirty, it looks like you are able to switch that out for a clean one. And it's just super cute with the pink little gems on the inside of the applicator pen. The kit comes with the standard tweezers, the little tray for you to pour your diamonds in, the little wax piece, as well as the plastic applicator, which you use on the wax piece. If you're not familiar with diamond painting, I am going to be working on this diamond painting, so I'll show a little bit of the process with you here, but I'll do a little bit more of an in-depth video later on as I'm working on this project. I have a feeling this one is going to be absolutely beautiful as it starts to kind of come together. It's going to be a while before you can kind of see the image come together, but I thought it would be helpful for me to share the process with you, as well as share with you some of my tips for doing diamond painting. Here I'm just kind of showing you what I got and kind of playing around with the kit. Now, on these smaller diamond paintings that I have done, I have poured all the colors of the diamonds in these little plastic containers and used them that way. However, these diamonds, there's a lot of them because it is such a large painting, but I also realized that these are in Ziploc bags. All of the ones that I have had before, which were not from Victoria's Moon, were not in Ziploc bags. They were in bags you had to cut, so you really couldn't reseal them. So I actually think I like the Ziploc bags a little bit better. You don't have to use a whole nother storage system. I'm just going to use a basket at the end, which you'll see, where I just pour all of these Ziploc bags in there. I'm showing you the little label that's on my diamond painting kit. I wasn't sure if that was something that you could order from or use that as like a search code. I couldn't seem to find it on the site, but I have a feeling it may be sold out as well. So just kind of keep an eye out on the page. There are a ton. I just searched for rose thinking maybe I could find the image that I have and link it for you, and like 10 pages came up. It wasn't on any of those 10 pages, but like 10 pages came up. Now, one thing I always suggest, and this will be in the video I do about diamond painting, I always suggest you to take an inventory of your colors to make sure you have everything. And I did do a couple, or do a little bit of research on the company before I anytime I'm highlighting a company in my videos, I always do a little bit of research on it if I'm not familiar with them, just to kind of get a feel for the company, get a feel for what the reviews say and things like that. And I did read a couple reviews that said, well, I shouldn't even say a couple, it was just one. I did read a review, and there were hundreds of reviews, by the way, but I did read one review that said they were missing a color. And so they contacted the company and it was sent out to them right away. So that's good to hear. I've never had a diamond painting missing a color, but I'm sure it happens just like with any company that you purchase from. Things happen, things get left out. But it was really nice to go ahead and see that there was a review that stated that even though that happened, it was quickly fixed for them. So far, I'm really liking this diamond painting. I will give you an update probably in a couple weeks or so. It's getting extremely cold here in North Carolina. And so this is a project that I have started, and I have barely made the slightest little dent in the entire project. I'm going to go ahead and start a little bit of it here because I was really excited to use this pen. I wasn't sure. It has such a small little metal applicator on the end. You fill it with wax, the red wax, and then you use it to pick up your diamonds, and it works really well. I wasn't sure because it was so small and such a fine point if it was actually going to be effective in picking up the diamonds, but it is. I was pleasantly surprised. Now, I was really excited about the waxed end of this because you don't have to keep applying wax to it. I just don't know if it will end up getting dirty over time, but I suppose that's where the plastic box that it came in, the storage box, will come in handy because you can keep it stored in there and it'll keep the dust from getting on it and all of that. Now, as far as where I store this diamond painting when I'm not working on it, I have shelves under my work desk for my crafting, and I'm just putting it on there to kind of keep it flat, but also keep it handy. Now, I say that because I have another diamond painting somewhere that is in process, and I cannot find it. I have no idea where I put it. I know it got mixed up in the shuffle of moving my craft space. And yes, everything is put up in my craft space, but it's more so the furniture is put where it goes and not necessarily the things are organized where I want them to be. It's just all the furniture is put where it needs to go. So I have no idea where this other diamond painting is. So I'm kind of glad that I have a new one to start working on in the meantime, and eventually I will find the other one. I know it's here somewhere. I will find it. I just have not found it yet. And I also have another completed one that I finished earlier this spring that I would like to frame and hang, but I can't find it either. It's got a sewing machine on it. And in my new craft space, I do have a specific area for my sewing machine. So I need to find it and frame it. I think the diamond paintings are an interesting bit of art to add to your house or your office because they just add a different dimension. I'm using all the different applicating, I guess that's right, tools, all the different tools that were in this kit. You've got the tweezers, you've got the plastic applicator with the wide end as well as the single end. I don't really like the wide end. I find it hard to have control over each of the diamonds that you put down when you're doing multiple ones at one time, but that's what it's intended for, to be able to put down like 10 at a time or 3 at a time or 4 at a time. My preferred way of putting down diamonds are the tweezers. I just really think it's easy to use the tweezers and put them in this specific space. It's very easy to get it lined up when you're using the tweezers. So I'll probably either use the tweezers or use the pink like Pen Gems pen. I have never liked the plastic applicator pen. It's flimsy. It's just not my favorite. I prefer definitely either the metal tweezers or the Pen Gems pen. So I've just done a little bit here just with the color. I think it's like color number 10 or something, just to kind of see. And then this is exactly how I'll store it. I just fold back a little bit of that plastic backing paper, and then I work on it, and then I cover it back up to keep the dust from getting on it. I'm going to put it up here and then I'm going to show you how I'm actually going to store this. When you are done with your diamonds, you just open up your plastic bag and pour them right back in. That's the great thing about having these plastic bags be reclosable. Like I said, the ones that I have purchased before from other companies have not come in the little zip bags, and I think it's genius that they're coming in little zip bags, especially since you already have the plastic packaging anyways. It's nice to not have to throw this plastic packaging away and then put it in another piece of plastic. I'm able to kind of just use the original packaging without having to continuously use more and more plastic. So that is my little color guide. I'm going to keep it with the kit. You don't really need it, but it is something just to keep in reference if you need to. Sometimes it can be difficult to read the color guide on the canvas, but mine is actually really clear. So that's one reason why I keep the paper. Now I just have this little plastic basket that I use for different storage in my craft room. This is from the dollar store. I think it's actually from the dollar store. And I think it came in like a set of 2 or a set of 3, and I used them to organize my drawers. And so I'm just putting all of these things in here, and this basket simply sits on top of the diamond painting on my shelf. So thanks again to Victoria's Moon for sponsoring today's video and giving me this kit to work with. But keep an eye out because you will be seeing more of this diamond painting in the future as I work on the project. Tip number 3, make cards or note cards. I have this pack of pre-made cards from Pebbles, and there are 6 different designs, and I think there's 5 of each design. So I am taking these and kind of decorating them, and I'm just using embellishments from my stash. Some are going to be much more decorated and some are going to be very little decorated, but it's just to do something. And I always find it helpful to kind of go through products in my stash to refamiliarize myself with what I have. Then, as you saw in my first tip, I have these 2 card kits. One makes quite a few cards, I think 21 cards, and the other one makes about 6 cards. So I'm just going through and embellishing all of these. So here's an example. I'm just going through my stash of Christmas stickers, and I find a dimensional candy cane that I'm going to put on top of the candy cane in Santa's hand on this Merry Christmas card. And he's also holding a gift in his other hand. So I have another sticker that has a gift on it that I'm just going to trim out and layer on top of that gift. It adds some embellishment to the same card. It keeps the same image pretty much on the card, but it just adds a little bit of embellishment to it. And I find it fun to do projects like this, embellishing or altering pre-made things. Now, the card kits are very similar to this. You are changing the products you have into pretty beautiful cards, and it's really helpful when you have a card kit because you have a guide to make the cards. Now, you can very easily do the exact same thing by finding some of your favorite YouTubers or some cards on Pinterest and scrap lifting those. I have absolutely no problem scrap lifting something. I, of course, give credit to the person the credit is due, but I think it's an amazing compliment to scrap lift someone. It shows that you think their idea is great and fantastic and you want to use it as well. Pinterest is a wonderful place to find ideas for cards or scrapbook pages or sewing projects or decorating ideas. And I always have a board going of scrapbook ideas or to-do ideas or gift ideas. And those are great ways to scrap lift beautiful projects as your own. And it is another way to kind of get your mind thinking in the crafty way, to take an idea and copy it without really having to give much thought to it. You don't have to come up with the idea yourself, but you're copying it. And I tend to find that as I'm doing projects like embellishing these cards or copying a card idea, my brain starts to think, okay, well, now I could do this, or this would be great on this project, or this would be that. And it kind of gets those juices flowing. It kind of gets those crafty ideas going through your brain and gets you motivated. In this sitting, going through these cards that I added embellishments as well as these card kits, I made over 60 cards, and these are cards that I keep in my stash, and I use these cards pretty regularly to send thank you cards, to send get well soon cards, to send hello cards, to send birthday cards. I love having a stash of handmade cards because I use them all the time. And like I said, this did double duty. Not only did it build my stash, but it also got those crafty ideas flowing through my brain. Now let's move on to the next tip. Tip number 4, create a to-do list for your projects, or for me, create a to-do pile. I have these plastic blue trays. You can get trays from the dollar store. You can get trays from Walmart. There's a number of places you can get trays. I use these trays for my projects. Now, I happen to have a ton of sewing projects in process, so that just was really the top pile of my crafty pile of things to do. So I started going through this pile first. This is a tree skirt fabric that I've probably had for 8 years, and I have every year intended to make the tree skirt because I want to use this one under my Christmas tree. So I'm adding it on a tray by itself for a project to do. Now you can literally make a list, but I'm just making a pile because when I have time, I will pull out one of these blue trays and start working on that project. This is another sewing project that I'm showing as an example. I designed this quilt out of scraps. And so I spent one entire day, probably about a year ago, cutting fabrics to fit the pattern that I created. That pile of fabrics is about 4 different blankets. I also have all of these fabrics cut for different projects, and I just have them piled up. I find it easier for me to cut a bunch of fabric at one time because I don't really like cutting fabric. It's the same thing with papers. I don't necessarily like trimming up my scraps or like cutting apart cut aparts. So I find it easier when all of the cutting is done at one time, and then I can pile these project trays. So these are sewing projects, but I also do the exact same thing with my paper projects. I am working on a project for my Etsy shop, and I will share that with you here in a moment. I did want to kind of show you this blanket. This is supposed to be Kaylin's baby blanket that I never finished, ever. And he just turned 9 last weekend. But eventually I will make this into a queen size quilt to go on his bed now. And I do have these little stockings that I had cut apart too to create like an 12 days of Christmas advent calendar. So I have millions and millions and millions of projects, but it is easier to have them in these project trays because when I do go to sit down and do a project, I can just grab a tray. They sit on top of my shelf that is right next to my scrap desk. Here is an example of some paper crafting projects. So I do my projects exactly the same, whether it's a sewing project or a craft project of some type or paper project. I bought this paper pack. It's an American Crafts spring collection, I believe. It's a cardstock papers, and I bought it to make some things for my Etsy shop. So I've had this sitting there for, I don't know, months, as most things in my scrap room are currently. And when I was making this list of to-do projects, that was one of the projects that I have to do. So instead of just piling all the paper on that project tray, I'm going to go ahead and cut up my papers. Then I know what size I need them. So I'm going to go ahead and take a moment and cut up some of these papers to go on that project tray. And then I will pile that project tray right on top of the other projects. So when I get 15 minutes, I can grab the top tray and start working on whatever project is next. To me, that is helpful. I am the type of person that keeps projects out until they are complete. So currently, I've had 25 trays. They're all full. Now, a lot of them are different types of projects. Some are sewing, some are scrapbooking, some are Etsy shop ideas, all different kinds of things. But the point is, I have a million projects to do, and it's a lot easier to have all the supplies gathered in the tray together instead of just piles on my floor. I don't put things up if I'm not done with it. And right now, with all the projects in process, I have them everywhere. And as I said, I just pile the trays on top of each other. So the top tray will be my next project that I work on. I actually have like 3 piles because the trays, the pile was so tall, I had to stack it in 3 piles. So I will take the top tray off of any of the 3 piles and work on it. And I am happy to say that I have already gotten 2 empty trays since I started this tip video for you guys, because it motivated me to go ahead and start working on some of the projects. One project I have is a mini album. One is my family history album. One of it is sorting through memorabilia that I have to go on my Project Life album that I have not started for 2019. There are a million different things that I have going on, and these project trays help me keep them organized and help me keep myself motivated. Moving on to the last tip. I think this last tip is a no-brainer and probably the easiest thing to do because it doesn't involve organizing or really working on anything. It's just going to shop for a couple new products. Now, Lord knows I need nothing else in my scrap room. However, I do enjoy some shopping. So what I did, we went traveling this summer and we actually went to Colorado. Actually, it was in October. It wasn't even the summer. It was more fall. But when we were there, I looked up a couple different scrapbook stores that were locally owned, and I went ahead and went to visit there. And when I went, of course, I want to buy all of the things, but we were flying, so I had limited storage space. And what I did instead was grabbed a couple new products, but I grabbed a couple that were specifically purchased for a project that I'm working on. I have a travel album that I'm working on, and it's an ongoing process, but of course I haven't done much in it, and I have a lot of photos ready to go in there, but I do need a couple state themed things, and this particular scrapbook store had a lot of state themed things that I grabbed. Now, they were really kind of a mix and mash of different things, but I found a couple really useful things in that store that will go in that album, and it was just a couple things. These were perfect. I could put them in my carry-on bag and not have to worry about them getting messed up. And it was a nice little treat to myself. Okay, that wraps up my 5 helpful tips for you today. I hope that you find these helpful, whether you use all 5 or maybe just 2 or maybe 3. Whatever works for you, I hope that these tips are helpful for you in getting your Crafty Mojo back. Also, don't forget to go to Victoria's Moon site and look at the diamond paintings that they have available and use the 10% coupon code that you will find in the description box below. Also, I always have a blog post that goes along with my videos, so make sure you check out my blog on WordPress. It's designbymelody.wordpress.com. Thanks, guys, and I will see you soon. Bye!